The Trojans gave up more yardage in 2019 than any defense in history. What's coming up here in 2020? Next on the Voice of College Football. Mark Rogers TV, the Voice of College Football, breaking down USC. We go to Matt Lowry at Conquest Chronicles on SB Nation to help us sort through the Trojans. Matt, how you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. Just ready for, hoping to see what this season brings us. But, with COVID-19 and everything, we're stuck with waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, it's not going to bring us a full season. That's pretty much guaranteed. No Alabama game, no Notre Dame game, as decided by the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, obviously doing the same with no non-conference games. The USC defense probably not necessarily going to be missing those two outings against the Irish and the Crimson Tide necessarily. But, man, when I look at the defense and I look at individual players at all three levels, I'm impressed by individuals, but when you put it all together there in 2019, they had a few rough stretches, no doubt, but they've got 12 of their top 13 tacklers back. So all that experience, all that talent, they should be able to do something much better here in 2020.
Yeah, they should. I mean, they're going into a new scheme. They're going into a new offense with Todd Orlando coming in, running a 3-4, a 3-4 defense. Something so that was kind of similar to what was ran before when Pendergast was there, until he abandoned it and went to his outright 4-2-5 defense. But with Orlando, and a lot of people weren't keen on Todd Orlando and that hiring because of what happened at Texas. Now, different situation at Texas, injuries, this, that, and the third. But but he has a track record where if the first 2 years he's there, the defense improves. So people, a lot of fans are hoping for the same thing with Orlando. And not only that, they revamped the coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball. You have Vic Soto from Virginia, who's right now a popular guy with the fans and with the recruits. You bring in Craig Navier to coach the safeties, who was also at Texas with Orlando. You bring in Dante Williams, top recruiter in the Pac-12 out of Oregon. Bring him to USC, and you saw what he did with the Oregon cornerbacks too. Two of their corners were all Pac-12 first team. So he comes over from Oregon to USC. Just a complete revamp of the staff there. So they're hoping to put it together and to improve the defense that really desperately needed some fixing, to do. And they have the talent to do it. But can Orlando put this talent together to make a successful defense, to make a run at the Pac-12? That's what a lot of people want to know.
Yeah, so when I mentioned guys that just pop off either the stat sheet or, more importantly, jump off the screen when I'm watching the games, this Talanga Hufanga, I don't know if I pronounced his name because it's been about 6 months since I've heard his name since we've talked and since the holiday.
Hufanga.
There it is. But I know that every time I watch USC play, that this guy's all over the place making plays. He's just an impressive athlete all over the place. 90 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. But again, it's more about me watching the games and just seeing this guy flash on the screen. And of course, Drake Jackson up front is a tremendous player. I just got to think that when you throw all this, Elijah Griffin is a tremendous talent, that if you throw these guys together with a decent scheme, that you should be getting better results.
Yeah, and I mean it all depends on the scheme and what you're coaching and assignment. And with USC, that wasn't happening. I mean, they were doing good against the run. Don't get me wrong, they were doing fine against the run. It's just their issue is they tend to have breakdowns a lot. And a lot of that was on coaching. A lot of that was on another thing was they weren't physical. As you saw with Todd Orlando when he was talking about being physical, tackling, defensive days, we're tackling. You didn't hear that at USC through the last few years with, you know, you've always heard that USC wasn't tackling in practice, and it showed in games. And so it's making those key stops right there. And then not only that, USC's defense never adjusted. They didn't adjust to certain situations. And that's where they got in trouble. You saw in the Holiday Bowl, that was the tipping scale right there. It's just they were getting gashed and there was no adjustments being made. And again, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have the coaching to put them in the right spots, you're not going to get the results that you think that you should have. And that was USC.
Talking Trojans, we got Matt Lowry on the line from Conquest Chronicles on SB Nation, so we invite you to head on over there and check out their coverage of USC football. Got your punter back, you got your place kicker back. That should be in good shape. Any thoughts about the special teams? And the bottom line here, Matt, I would love to pin you down on, well, it could be a 9-game season. Let's say if they stick with the current conference season and they've given up on the non-conference schedule, what you can expect from USC, a team that despite losing 5 games overall last year, 7-2 in the Pac-12 South, and was that close to getting into the Pac-12 championship game.
It's going to be interesting to watch because, as you mentioned right now, if they go conference only with no non-conference games, it's going to be 9 games. 10 if you count the Pac-12 championship game. And if you're trying to play the season as is, and that's the biggest question is, are they going to play the season as is? Because if they are, that means USC's first game will be against Stanford in Palo Alto, on the road at Stanford. And that will be in September. Now, if that's the case, USC realistically could do some good things. USC could actually improve. I think they could, honestly, there's, if anything, they could go throughout conference play with probably 1 loss. And we know that would probably boil down to Oregon. Now, at the same time, if there's no fans in Oregon, then that takes away a major element right there. So now that plays into the hands of USC, because if there's no fans at Oregon, if fans can't go in, then you've pretty much taken away most teams' ability right there. Between that and Arizona State's not going to be an easy one too. So they could get through conference probably with 1 loss, maybe 2. I would say 2 losses. And if that loss will come at the hands of probably Arizona State, who knows? Because USC tends to surprise people and they tend to drop games that they're not supposed to drop, and they tend to win games that they're not supposed to win. So it's always, something different.
Yeah, of course, last year with that head-to-head win against Utah at the Coliseum, that was so impressive, but that gives the team a 2-game advantage in the division, but they couldn't make it stand up, and Utah doesn't lose another game, and USC gets shut out of the Pac-12 championship game.
That's the thing with USC is that you have to take care of business. That's the thing with anything. You got to take care of business first. You got to take care of your own business.
All right, so whether at the top of the college football world or back losing 7 games 2 years ago, we cover USC because they're relevant, they're important, and they're a brand name. And we got Matt Lowry on the line from Conquest Chronicles to help us break down the Trojans. Matt, we appreciate you stopping by.
No problem. Glad to be here.